I want to start by just giving my condolences to the Tobin family. I got to know Bill over these last couple of years and always enjoyed the experience he brought to the table and the passion he brought for scouting. And he's been a major part of this NFL over the last half century and this team, for a long time now. So, I hate this for Duke and his family, but just want to give my condolences to them. Yes.
Is there a little bit like draft order that Bill has over the years that you remember?
Yeah, probably my favorite one. There can be a lot. My favorite one was when we were on the clock with the fifth pick in the 2021 draft, and we were talking about Evan McPherson, and a voice in the back of the room spoke up and said, in 1985 at the Bears, we took a rookie kicker and we went to the Super Bowl and it worked out well for us. And I just kind of remember there being a silence after that comment. And then the next thing I remember was Duke submitting the pick for Evan McPherson. And so I think we were leaning that way anyway, but that comment always resonated with me, and he was obviously making his voice heard in that moment. And next thing you know, Duke's putting in Evan's name, and that's probably where Duke was headed anyway, but it's always good to have that last piece of advice.
What's the final prep like as you get closer to it?
Just in conversations right now, Duke's just leading the charge, making sure everything's cleaned up and everyone's opinions are heard, and then we get ready for Thursday.
What's the biggest lesson maybe you've learned in 6 years doing it as a head coach? Sorry for many years as an assistant. What's maybe the biggest thing you walk away from and walk into the room with as a head coach?
Well, again, the scouts do the brunt of the work, and so you want to lean on their expertise and their knowledge on the players just for a vision of how we utilize the player. That's really where I step in, and the coordinators, and being that voice. If hey, there needs to be some closure on a player, what's the vision for him? That's where I've got to step in and make sure that I speak on behalf of our schemes and how we see a player fitting. And so just leaning more into that role than as a position coach, when you're just talking about what the player's traits are as a player and how they fit you by the position group. It's got to be a bigger picture for me.
With the continuity that the Bengals have had with coaching and scouting, do you sense that that side of the building really has a good feel now for the type of players you and your staff want to have on the team?
I do. I think the scouting department, seeing the schemes, it's been similar schemes over the years. So how we utilize guys and what guys succeed, which guys maybe struggle more, and so I think that's a benefit. Just the continuity we've had in both departments is really helpful this time of year.
How much of a voice do your coaches have? Obviously, you have a voice, but how about your assistants, your coordinators? How big of a voice do they have on a week like this?
Well, I think it's leading up to the week. The position coaches do a great job going to the pro days and interviewing the players on Zoom and meeting with them at the combine, studying the tape, and so they supplement what the scouts have done. And then if there's last minute questions, there's a lot of prospects, and so there's always cleanup work to do on each guy, and I think that's where the position coach maybe has zoomed him one more time to try to gain some information. And so Duke may ask, hey, what was your last opinion of the guy and how did it go? And so that's maybe a week like this, that's where it pops up.
With so many guys transferring and playing from multiple schools during their college career, is it harder to evaluate them? Is it easier because you see them in multiple systems? How does that impact them?
You're just trying to gain all the information you can on the player, so it's hard to say. There's always been transfers over the years, and so you're just trying to gain all the information you can on the person that you're bringing into the building and the talent level that they have and how it fits what we do.
When you look at what makes an ideal slot for you guys, what are the traits you're looking for on what you guys currently do in offense? What makes a good slot?
I don't think it needs to be put into a box, because I think a good slot can be a different image for a lot of different teams of how they utilize their offense and how they utilize their players. We've got a lot of players that we think can do multiple things for us that allow you to be creative. So, I'm not going to 5 days before the draft define what I think our top slot would look like. But I just think that we've got a lot of good people in the building that can play multiple positions for us and allows us to do what we need to do.
How's valuable is versatility at wide receiver having that?
I think for us, we throw the ball quite a bit, and so the more guys you have that can do more is makes things easier for us.
Do you have allowed you to reimagine your receiver positions and how you use them? Because Jamar's role continues to grow. TV's gone now. You can rethink how. Has this opened new conversations about how to use your receivers?
I think every receiver you watch opens up that conversation. It's what's the vision for this player and how does it affect other people we have. And so that's probably the easiest way for me to put it.
Do you have a height, weight, speed ratio, or has that changed as the game's evolved, or is there something? Is there a height, weight ratio?
I think we're always looking to be flexible. You can see guys that maybe would fit outside of a certain criteria you may lay out in years past that you can just, hey, the guy's a football player and he'll succeed. And so obviously there's always criteria we look for from a starting point, but, we want football players that fit us best.
You guys have added a lot of big tackles and big linemen. Why has that been an emphasis, and what is that? How did that help you?
I don't know that it's been, let's go get this giant offensive lineman necessarily. That's just the way that it's played out. You're probably most specifically thinking about Orlando a year ago. We always had high regard for Orlando, and he was available, so we went and got him. And then this year with Trent, it's just there was a need there, and Trent was the best available there. And so his size is a plus, but it wasn't, hey, let's go get the biggest human being we can possibly get and put there. It just coincidentally is how it played out for us.
Position versatility used to be the exception, not the rule. Now it seems like it's reversed. It seems like position versatility is almost like a must. When did that start to change, do you think? Was there a time frame?
You're saying position versatility is a must for the O-lineman?
Well, I'm saying in general, like your wide receivers can line up anywhere. Your offensive lineman play multiple positions. Guy, it seems like, the corners playing the slot and outside. It seems like position versatility is almost universal now, whereas in the past was a big exception.
I think at the receiver room, just the way we want to utilize guys, the system I was brought up in, it was important for guys to be able to move around. Number one, for offensive linemen, you can make several different arguments for that. Yeah, you want guys to have the flexibility to play multiple positions so they can compete and get on the field and the best player can play. At the same time, I do see now more with 8 active linemen as opposed to 7, which it was always, you can get away with going into a game and carrying a one-spot guy, whereas in years past, it always had to be multiple spots if you were the 6th or 7th lineman. So whereas now you can get away a little bit more just based on how your training camp cut downs go of getting through some game weeks with a guy that maybe is center only or guard only. And it doesn't mean that you don't want the flexibility. You want the flexibility to play multiple spots, which all of our guys typically can, but the 8th alignment has made that a little bit different.
From a schematic standpoint, what's the difference for when the team's under pressure from the interior instead of from the edge? Like in just offensive use, conceptually speaking, why is it maybe more unique, or what are the challenges that it throws to offense when you're able to get pressure as a defense on the inside as opposed to the outside?
Just with a 4-man rush, you're saying? Yeah. Well, when there's clean wins from inside, the quarterback gets a more drastic movement than getting beat off the edge, and he can just subtly push up and stay within the same framework of the footwork for the throws that we want. Whereas if it's a clean win from inside, that usually gets on him a little bit faster and causes, you don't always want it to cause drastic change in the footwork, but it can because it's not as expected as feeling a rush from the outside.
Zach, when did the most passionate debates happen? Did that just happen? Does that happen this week? Is that at the beginning of the process when you guys sort through what you want your path to be? I'm curious, when the best conversations about that.
I think it's a very civil draft room for us, and it's guys do a good job over the process, stating their likes, their dislikes, and Duke doing a good job moderating and making sure everything's the way that he wants it done. And so it's a really, really clean draft room. Duke does a good job of leading and keeping everyone on task and making sure that he's got all the opinions he needs to make decisions.
Is there a player that you guys have taken that, spot a little bit, where you can remember a passionate speech making a difference by anybody, by a scout, by you, by somebody where you're like, that kind of make everybody kind of nod and say, yeah, I think so.
No, I can't remember a specific example. If you're talking about draft day, before.
Even just building a board.
No, it's you're always there's always guys you're passionate about. Everybody's kind of got their guy or two that they're passionate about, and I think the important thing is making sure that everyone's on the same page before draft day. You don't want that to happen on draft day. And again, that's where I just give a credit to the process that the Bengals have followed long before I've been here. It's a very they've done a great job of orchestrating that draft room and conducting it in a way that I think the coaches really respect. Coaches that have been other places and jump in here. It's very clean is the best way to put it, and organized, and you always have the belief that we're going to get the players that fit us the best.
You don't want to take credit for your speech making them draft Jamar Chase and saying that.
I don't remember any speech I gave. I think everybody did a good job of playing devil's advocate for other positions. I think that was needed. You want to make sure it's not just this is the guy and there's not a lot of discussion. So everybody did a good job presenting arguments for why you could make the argument to take other players. But ultimately, we were all very, very happy when this pick was submitted. It was Jamar, and we've certainly been happy with how it's played out.
Zach, you obviously drafted at the top of the first round, the bottom of the first round the last couple of years. Now you're right in the middle. Are there any differences between those three areas?
The only difference is obviously moving up, 10 to 12 picks from where we've done it, in the past is you maybe have a better idea of the top 18 guys than the top 29, 30, whatever it is. And so it might be slightly more predictable. It still feels pretty unpredictable, but again, we'll get to the point where we feel really good about who we're taking.
You don't go to a lot of pro days, but there were sure to be like Texas's pro day. How do you decide which pro days you go to? Is there any significance of you going to that?
I wouldn't read too much into it, why I do certain ones. Sometimes it fits the schedule we have here best, and sometimes there's multiple prospects at multiple positions, and so you get a chance to see a little bit of everybody. But I won't get into any specific significance other than I wouldn't read too much into that.
When you meet with these guys with the night before pro day, combine, top 30 visit, how soon do you know, yes, he is what we're about, or no, he's not?
But you never fully know. You can certainly be fooled one way or the other in that, and that's what I really like our process of multiple people being involved separately with a player. And so maybe you have a great or not so great interaction. You can go to the next person, scouts, position coach, coordinator, whatever it is, and how is yours? And then you have plenty of time to follow up after that if you need to clean up any information. But I think that's a good way of doing it, is to get multiple people involved in multiple settings and see what the overall consensus is.
The longer you've done this, have there been more things that pop up maybe as you think like, oh, that's a red flag? Like, has your list of red flags maybe grown, or have they changed the longer you've done this?
I think it's hard to put something in a box like that. Every person's different. Every person in this room is different. And so you don't want to just, because of a mistake maybe somebody made in the past, you're going to hold it against somebody you meet in the future. And so that's why you just got to do your research on the players and get a good feel for them.
Are there certain traits now that you have that are non-negotiable when you're going through, like when you're going through your interview or doing background, that you see somebody, you say, oh, they don't have this, there's no way that we can make it?
It's again difficult to know for certain. You might hear something about a player and maybe they just had a tough experience at college and with the people that they were with, and they'll be better in the NFL. The environment might be better and vice versa. So again, non-negotiable is a tough term for me. I think you've got to have some flexibility on who you're talking about.
What did you do on your draft day? What did you do on your draft day?
I didn't get drafted. I played golf, just to take your mind off things. I was always hopeful to get drafted maybe in the 7th round. So you can pinpoint the moment that you need to be available. I didn't think I needed to be available, early in the morning on Sunday or whatever day it was. But played golf, and then I remember John Gruden called me in the 7th round, which was a bad sign. That when it's usually that's your first red flag. They're not calling you to say we're picking you, because if they're picking you, they're picking you. They're usually calling to say we'd love to have you as a free agent because you can call plays in the huddle without messing them up. And that's what my outcome became.
So were you golfing when you got the call?
No, I was at my house. Yeah.
Do you watch the top quarterbacks just kind of out of curiosity and to get a feel for what's coming in the league?
Loosely, I wouldn't say I study enough to have a firm opinion. I rely on our scouts and Brad Crowthorpe, our quarterback coach. They do all that. So, I talk to those guys. But I do like to watch the pro days. I do like to watch a couple games and get a feel for them. But to put the top guys in an order the way other teams would see them. I'm not ready to do that.
How different has this process been with Brad? It's new faces, it's new positions.
Really good, just because again, it's not a lot of new people. It's just a couple new people. And with Brad, he's been here, so he's done the receivers with Troy for years, and so this isn't anything new for him. He's just getting to his natural position and being able to evaluate. So, not really a lot of newness with Brad and Jordan because they've gone through this process with us. Trying to think of it's really all the primary position coaches we hired, so it's been pretty clean that way.
What does Justin do? Is he watching quarterbacks, receivers, linemen? How does he factor in?
Yeah, he's pretty well involved with a lot of different groupings, and so that's a good other opinion. Another guy who's coming in the building and can see things from a different perspective, and so he's fit in really nicely with our process.
What do you make of the Washington football team bringing like 20 guys in at once, 4 quarterbacks and all these players at once? And, do you see pros and cons to that? What's your opinion?
We've got our process we believe in. Other teams have theirs, and so I'd hate to speak on what other teams are doing.
It's an organization that was started by a head coach. Do you feel like your voice and your staff's voices are considered more in the draft in comparison to some of your peers?
That's a hard one for me. The respect I've got for Duke and Mike and how this process is run to where they want to hear everyone's voice at the right time, and everyone feels empowered, and everyone feels like what they're going to say matters. And then the people that make the decisions got to make the decisions, and so that's the right way to do it. And so I like the process we follow. I don't want to speculate on what everybody else is doing.